Welcome to Behind the Catch Fence. I'm your host, as always, David Hoffman. It's episode 72 of the show, which means we just keep getting closer to that 100 mark. Now, if you have any ideas on who we should have on for a monumental 100th episode, let us know in the comments. Well, on today's show, Repco Supercars driver Cam Waters joins us. Now, Cam has been a rising star over in Australia, and this year he's made a few NASCAR Truck Series starts, along with a Cup Series start at Sonoma with RFK Racing, where we're talking all about his background in supercars and his experiences in NASCAR. So without further delay, go grab a snack and enjoy this episode with Cam Waters. I appreciate you taking the time. Want to talk about your career a little bit, and obviously doing NASCAR as well, and everything in between. So kind of going into it a little bit, just go back to the beginning for you. Just where did your love for racing and begin?
So my dad used to race speedway. So they're called modified sedans, which, yes, it's a pretty big sedan category in Australia, just, all dirt ovals. So growing up, going to the speedway, watching him. And then when I turned 6, I got my first go-kart, which I raced go-karts for 7 or 8 years, all asphalt, no dirt go-karts. And then, after that, I've got our own Formula V, which we ran for about 6 months, which the thing just kept breaking down. So we sold that pretty quickly and bought a Formula Ford, which I did for 3 or 4 years. So that was great. We ran the car ourselves for probably 2 of them, and then we went with a team, won the championship, and then I was part of a reality TV show, which there was 10 contestants, and then the winner won a prize to race at Bathurst with Grant Denyer, who's a bit of a celebrity here in Australia. So that was awesome. Somehow I got through that, won that, and raced at Bathurst with him, which at the time I think I was the youngest ever starter for Bathurst, which was quite cool. I was 17 at the time. After that, went into Dunlop Series, which is called Super 2 now. Raced that for probably 3.5, 4 years. Same thing, went into a smaller team to start with, and then went into FPR for the last 2 years of my Dunlop Series career and won that championship, and then stepped into the main series with ProDrive or FPR, and which is now called Tickford. Been racing with them ever since.
You mentioned with Bathurst getting that started at 17 years old. I mean, for you, I don't know too much about supercars, but I know Bathurst is the most heralded event over there. Just for you, a 17-year-old, what are those emotions like to get a start in that just as a teenager, essentially?
It was a pretty crazy weekend. So I had 2 test days in the car before the 1,000, and pretty well they were probably really the only 2 times I'd driven a supercar. Any other circuit racing was just Formula Ford. So I was going to the craziest track of the year in a car, which I hadn't really driven. So there was a lot to take in. And then when we went to Bathurst, pretty well all the practice was wet. So, they're crazy enough in the dry, let alone in the wet. So, just so many things were thrown at us that weekend. And, it was awesome. Like, I had so much fun. It was such an experience. And it really probably helped elevate my profile a little bit, which helped me get sponsors for the next few years to kind of get me through the my Dunlop Series campaign. So it was good.
And, you kind of mentioned with the way you're I guess climbing up the ladder to get the supercars. Was supercars always the number one goal for you, or do you think of other series or that kind of thing?
As a kid, everyone probably thinks Formula One, right? But you quickly realize how much money is involved to do that, and you think of a more realistic target. So, from pretty early on, we were aiming to get to supercars. The whole US thing I know it wasn't really on the radar. I think the pathway would have been pretty hard at that time. So it was always supercars, try and make it, and and be a paid driver, and managed to make it, which is cool.
And you also kind of mentioned with the with the, I guess, like the ladder series and everything. Just is there one specific way? Like obviously here, you got for NASCAR, you got the trucks, Xfinity Cup, that sort of thing. Is there a very concrete type of thing for supercars, like you kind of mentioned?
Um, I guess when I was coming through, for sure, there was, you get out of go karts, you go straight to Formula Ford. You'd race them for 3-4 years, and then you'd go into Super Two, which is essentially Xfinity or truck in America. So it's a bit of a clear pathway. Now it's a little bit different. There's a few different series now. Formula Ford isn't as strong as it once was, so it's not clear cut, but there's still definitely a lot of different opportunities to get to supercars.
And we kind of meant, we've talked about Bathurst already. Just for someone who's grown up watching it or then competing in it, starting at 17 years old, why is that event such a special event and it's so difficult to compete at, win at, and be successful at?
Well, it's the biggest race of the year for us. It's like your Daytona 500 or like Nürburgring, and all those real, I guess, bespoke events. That track in itself is just pretty gnarly. It's got everything going on from turn 2 to turn 20. It's pretty wild, right? So every corner is unique and can really bite you if you get it wrong. So I think just how treacherous the track is, the event itself. It's we're there for pretty well 6 days, heaps of practice, qualifying, and just getting to the race in itself is usually pretty full on. So I find by the time I get to race start on Sunday at Bathurst, I'm already pretty worn out from all the media, all the sponsor stuff, all the practice, everything you do. So and then once you get into the race, everything's thrown at you. It's just a hard race to win. Like, and that's why it's so special to win, and was so much history around the race as well.
And I've always kind of, when I play like on like Forza or something like that, one of the things that I always end up screwing up at Bathurst is was it the set of downhill corners? I don't know if they have a specific name, but
Yeah.
have you ever had had a moment where you do, slap the wall there because it's so tight and because it's so, just very technical?
Yeah, 100%. Every year you go there and practice one, lap one, you're like, wow, it's a bit of an eye opener again, and you're like 4 seconds off the pace, and then the next lap you're 2, and then the next lap you're 1, and then you pit, and you're like, wow, how am I going to find another second? And it's this sort of track you got to creep up on, because if you get it wrong, you're in the fence. So the section of track that you're talking to is from Skyline to the dipper to Forest Elbow. It's pretty crazy going over Skyline because the car goes so light. The only good thing there is a little bit of runoff. So if you get a bit loose over Skyline, you can kind of go straight and gather it up, where all the other corners you kind of can't. So it's pretty cool.
And so the supercars, they only have, is it just Bathurst that's the endurance race, or is there another endurance race along the way for them?
Yeah, so we got the Sandown 500 as well, which it's in Melbourne. It's kind of the lead up to the Bathurst, so that's our next event here.
So those are those the only two events then that you guys have, I guess, a co-driver, correct?
Yeah, so over the years it's changed a little bit. It's like 5 years ago, it was 3 events. It was Sandown, Bathurst, and the Gold Coast 600, which is a street track. And then the whole COVID thing happened. We went back to just Bathurst. Now I've got Sandown, Bathurst again. So Sandown in itself is a pretty hard race to win as well, and it's a special race in a very different circumstance to Bathurst. But it's only 2 races for us for enduro season at the moment.
And how as a team do you guys figure out who to have the co-driver as, just going into the weekends?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a team decision for management to engineers to drivers to who you pick as your co-driver to share your car with. Usually after Bathurst, you work out who you want in your car, and teams have kind of alliances to other drivers who have retired or who's driving in their Super 2 program and things like that. But I've paired up with James Moffat for the last 3 years, so he used to race. He's probably got more race starts than I do. So yeah, he's got heaps of experience, and he just gets in the car, and I don't have to really think about trying to get him up to speed or anything like that. He just does a really good job. So yeah, it'd be awesome to be teaming up with Moff again this year.
And it seems like supercars, especially over here, seem to gain a lot more popularity. Obviously, Scott McLaughlin, his success in IndyCar, and Shane Van Gisbergen in NASCAR now. Just as from your perspective, just what do you feel that says about just supercars, the caliber of drivers over there, just that Shane Van Gisbergen or McLaughlin can just head over to the States, run a different series, and be competitive, win races, right off the bat.
Yeah, I think the level that supercars operate at, and the teams and the drivers is quite high. And I'm not sure if we get forgotten about just because we're on the other side of the world, but it's our little series over here on our side of the world, and yeah, I like to think we operate at a pretty high level. And when Scotty goes over there and does well, or Shane, or when Chaz jumps in a GT car and is fast, it just proves that the level that we operate at is pretty good. So it's cool when people step outside of our category and go well, and it's it's kind of a bit of a tick of approval that we're going all right.
And obviously, you had that chance to run 2 truck races, the Cup race as well at Sonoma. Hey, what do you feel was your biggest takeaway, at least from the Sonoma race? I know you kind of you got out early because of mechanical stuff, but before that point in practice qualifying, how do you feel that went, and yeah, everything with that?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience, and kind of different in some ways to what I thought it would be like, but then very similar with the cars and things like that. So over there, there's no testing. Where here we get to test. Everything's simulator over there, where we don't really use a sim here. So kind of just getting your head around that stuff. It was a little bit different for me, going to a track which I've never been to, in a car. So I was just trying to get my head around the cars as quick as I could, and some parts of the car was very similar to our old supercar, our Gen 2 car, and then parts of it were a little bit different. But by the time I got in the race, I was actually feeling really comfortable, and started to race forward and making some moves and stuff, which I was just having a ball with. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame that I just got caught up in someone else's incident, which put us out. But yeah, so much fun doing it. And then the truck racing was, both races were very, very different. Like Martinsville, I kind of got in and I felt comfortable straight away. And because it was a short oval, it was like, yeah, it was just like a draw on my experience, break the car, turn the car, get out. Where when you went to Kansas, you're racing the air, and that was, yeah, totally different again. So I probably found Kansas more challenging. But same thing, I kind of got halfway through the race at Kansas, and I started to get comfortable and started to work it out, and away I went. So I just wish that the race was probably twice as long at Kansas. And yeah, but yeah, it was awesome. I absolutely loved it, and hopefully I can do a few more next year.
And you mentioned with Kansas, and obviously, the supercars is obviously primarily on permanent ovals and everything else. This with Kansas, for instance, I guess, what did that, as for you, not really as feeling that kind of fighting the air in that way of trying, with the momentum and everything else. What did that feel like initially, to where it was kind of caught you off guard, or you had to kind of adapt to, for you?
Um, well, the big thing with Kansas is, like, I didn't have a lot of practice, and you straight into quali, and it's like, oh, you should hold it flat, but you might have a lift. So for me, it was about trying to work out where the limit was, and the tire, and how the car moved around. And that was hard, because you're just trying to wing it a little bit and work it out on the go. But once you get into the race and you get into a bit of a rhythm, and you have a few laps, you soon work that out, and you have a few slides, and you're like, okay, that's where the limit is. And and you can drive to that easier. But early in practice and quality, you just like got no idea where that limit is, and then once you get into the race and you're around other cars, and you're in dirty air, and people are putting their car on your outside door, just little things like that you have no idea about going in, but you learn very quickly what to do. So it was a massive experience.
Who do you feel, I guess, obviously between a truck and cup car, totally different things, but is there anyone in particular that you kind of leaned on throughout those three races to kind of get your bearing straight, or is there anyone in particular?
There was a few people. So I reached out to Marcus Ambrose when I was doing the truck racing, and he was really helpful. I spoke to Shane a little bit because he'd done one of the truck races, and then just whoever wanted to really help me, really. So Ford were absolutely amazing, helped me on the sim. That Dave Reagan give me a heap of help on the sim, which was great. So I got enough support for those races, which was cool. And then obviously, the team at ThorSport were unreal.
And now that you've tried a few, NASCAR truck cup and everything else, is there any other type of race car, maybe it's over here, maybe it's in a different country, that you would still like to try, maybe now or in the future?
I'd definitely love to do a few more truck and cup races. I'd love to do a super speedway. So it's probably the next thing I want to tick off. I'd probably like to do a couple of international GT races, but I think for me, it's probably just focus on a couple of things at the moment. I'm still racing the sprint car here in Australia. So, maybe even one day try and do Knoxville would be sick as well.
Yeah, you mentioned with sprint cars, and you kind of do that as a hobby. Just, I mean, for you, how does racing a sprint car kind of maybe help you, or when it comes to your day job and everything else, or is this kind of like, yeah, it's just for fun type of thing?
Yeah, it's good because we race kind of over the winter from March to November, and then the sprint car season operates over our summer or over Christmas. So it kind of fits in well with my schedule. I just love kind of racing, so the more I race, the happier I am. And the sprint car, it's so different to everything else I've ever driven. It's a real challenge, and I like challenging myself. So when I first stepped in one, I felt so foreign in the car. It kind of sparked a bit of interest to keep doing it. And I've done it for 3 seasons. This will be my 4th season this year. And I'll keep doing it. It kind of keeps me sharp, I think. And, I'd love to go do Knoxville and stuff one day over there. So I kind of need to get good enough here before I go run a big track like that.
Yeah, Knox will be pretty darn cool to see you against the Larson or someone else or anyone else that's around here. But final question for me, just looking on the rest of the season for supercars, how do you feel? What's your outlook for the season? And obviously Bathurst coming up and still in the title contention, got a little bit to go, but I think Will Brown's still leading the points there. But what's your outlook on the rest of the season?
Yeah, we've got 4 rounds to go. We've got the 2 big enduro races, Sandown, Bathurst, which are big points races. So I'm a little bit behind in the points, but you kind of have to get through the enduros to really know where you're at. You have 2 really good endurance races, or 1 DNF from the other boys, and it's back on. So for us, it's just go out there and win races, be aggressive, and hopefully after Bathurst we've got a couple of wins, which would be nice, and hopefully we're back in the title hunt.
Well, Cam, I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully everything goes smoothly and well.
Yeah, no, thank you, mate. It'll be right. We'll see how we go.
Thanks for watching our interview with Cam Waters. Now, one thing I didn't know about going in is just how Cam got an opportunity in supercars. I mean, who knew a reality TV show would eventually turn into a full-time career in racing? I mean, he's certainly proven to be lethal on any given week in those cars, that's for sure. Now this weekend is a big one for the series as the famed Sandown 500 in Melbourne is next up. It's the first of 2 endurance races on the schedule, with the Bathurst 1000 coming in October, so that'll be something that we'll have to be watching for. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the show. Be sure to hit that like button as well. While you're at it, go ahead and click subscribe. We got plenty more interviews and race coverage coming your way, so stay close to the channel. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram and X at BehindCatch for more content as well. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Go enjoy some racing, and I'll catch you guys later.